For every 8 great Dexter antagonists, there are 8 others who fall flat. Today, we're comparing them all, starting with arguably the best antagonist of the series, Brian Moser, aka the Ice Truck Killer. Brian Moser is more than just another killer. He is Dexter's biological older brother. After witnessing their mother's murder as children, Dexter was adopted by Harry Morgan and raised under the code, while Brian was left to drift, broken by trauma. That pain shaped him into the Ice Truck Killer, who staged his victims' remains as messages meant to draw Dexter closer and strip away Harry's influence. Under the alias Rudy Cooper, Brian entered Dexter's life more directly by dating Deborah Morgan, creating one of the show's most shocking reveals. What makes him stand out as a villain is not just his cruelty, but his bond with Dexter. Unlike other foes, Brian does not see Dexter as prey. He sees him as a partner, someone to free from morality and embrace his true predatory nature. This clash creates one of the series' deepest conflicts, that being Dexter's temptation to belong versus his loyalty to Deborah and Harry's code. Climax forces him to choose between his sister and his brother, ultimately affirming morality over blood. Brian endures as one of Dexter's greatest villains because he embodies what Dexter could become without restraint. Intelligent, calculating, and bound to him by both trauma and blood. The worst antagonist number 1, Travis Marshall, aka the Doomsday Killer. The main villain of Season 6, Travis Marshall is often seen as one of Dexter's weakest foes. A religious fanatic, he stages elaborate murders based on biblical prophecy, but his grandiose theatrics lack real depth. Unlike the best villains, he doesn't challenge Dexter's worldview. He's more obstacle than mirror. The twist that his mentor, Professor Geller, was only a figment of his imagination reduces him to a familiar, unstable zealot trope. In the end, Travis matters less as a villain and more as a plot device, mainly serving to push Deborah's story forward when she discovers Dexter's secret. The best antagonist number 2. James Dokes is not a serial killer or mastermind, yet he remains one of Dexter's greatest antagonists. A decorated Army Ranger turned Miami Metro detective, Dokes is sharp, relentless, and immune to Dexter's charm. From the start, he senses something wrong, calling out Dexter's detachment and obsessive fascination with blood. His constant suspicion creates a tension unlike any other in the series. What makes Dokes so effective is that he represents truth, not darkness. While other villains tempt Dexter toward his predatory nature, Dokes hunts the lies that protect him. He cannot be manipulated or distracted. And when he discovers Dexter's blood slides, the threat becomes existential. For the first time, Dexter faces exposure rather than temptation. Dokes' capture and framing as the Bay Harbor Butcher is one of the show's most tragic turns. His death in Lila's explosion silences the only man who truly saw Dexter for what he was. Dokes was not corrupt or evil. He was right. He embodied honesty and integrity. James Dokes endures as one of the best antagonists because he was real. He was the one man Dexter could never fool, and that made him every bit as dangerous as the killers who came after. The worst antagonist number 2, Lila West. Introduced in Season 2 as Dexter's Narcotics Anonymous sponsor, Lila quickly shifts from supportive to manipulative, obsessive, and dangerously unstable. Her fixation leads her to drug and frame Batista, manipulate Santos Jimenez, and ultimately kill James Dokes by setting fire to the cabin where he was trapped. This act saves Dexter from exposure, but out of impulse, not calculation. Her instability escalates as she kidnaps Dexter's stepchildren, Aster and Cody. Unlike villains such as Brian or Trinity, Lila does not challenge Dexter's code or reflect his struggles. She's driven only by obsession and rejection. In the end, Dexter kills her in Paris, closing a storyline that feels more like a chaotic subplot than a true villain arc. Lila remains one of the show's weakest antagonists. The best antagonist number 3, Arthur Mitchell, the Season 4 villain. is widely regarded as one of Dexter's greatest foes. Outwardly, he is a kind, charitable family man, a church deacon, volunteer, devoted husband and father. Behind the facade, he is a meticulous killer who recreates the traumatic events of his childhood in a cycle of 4 murders. A young woman in a bathtub, a mother forced to jump, a man bludgeoned, and a kidnapped child buried alive. He has repeated this cycle for decades, evading capture with chilling precision. What makes Arthur compelling is his duality. By day, he blends into suburban life. By night, he commits horrific crimes. Like Dexter, he lives a double life, and at first, Dexter is fascinated, even admiring his skill. But Arthur's cruelty extends to his own family, revealing that his life is far from stable. The stakes peak in the season 4 finale, when Dexter kills Arthur in a ritualistic fashion, only for Arthur to have the last laugh by murdering Rita, leaving Harrison amidst tragedy. This shocking act cements Arthur as one of the most unforgettable villains in the entire series. The Worst Antagonist number 3, Ray Speltzer. Ray Speltzer, the Minotaur Slayer from Season 7, is a theatrical serial killer who wears a horned helmet and forces his victims through elaborate mazes before killing them. His murders are driven by a twisted resentment of women who remind him of his mother, whom he both desired and despised. While his presentation is visually striking, it borders on parody. The idea of a killer in a bull helmet chasing victims through mazes feels more like a slasher film than Dexter's usually grounded world. Unlike Dexter's most compelling foes, Speltzer lacks psychological depth and does not force Dexter to question himself or his code. He exists mainly as a monster of the week, a brief threat with no lasting moral or emotional impact. Speltzer's time in the series is short. He kills a few victims, threatens Deborah, and is eventually captured and killed by Dexter, who burns his body in a crematorium. While memorable for his bizarre style, Speltzer stands out as one of the shallower, less significant villains in a series defined by psychological complexity. Before you watch any further, I'm happy to finally announce that I'm releasing the first limited drop of my t-shirts. At the start, there are only 100 available, so make sure you buy them while you can at dtmerch.store. Enjoy the video. The Best Antagonist number 4, Miguel Prado. Miguel Prado, introduced in Season 3, is a charismatic assistant district attorney whose villainy is rooted in betrayal. After bonding with Dexter over shared grief, Miguel becomes the first person Dexter trusts with his secret life, even participating in a kill. For a moment, Dexter experiences companionship in his darkness, but Miguel has no moral boundaries. When he kills Ellen Wolf, a woman guilty only of opposing him in court, he shows that his friendship with Dexter was a mask for ambition and ego. Their relationship unravels, culminating in Dexter strangling Miguel, reclaiming control, and ending the illusion of partnership. Unlike other villains, Miguel represents the false ally, exploring themes of trust, temptation, and betrayal. While he lacks the longevity of Brian or the symbolic weight of Arthur, he remains one of Dexter's most compelling and well-crafted foes. The Worst Antagonist number 4, the Barrel Girls Gang. The Barrel Girls Gang from Season 5 is shocking, but poorly written. They lack depth, personal motives, or psychological complexity, functioning as one-dimensional sadistic abusers rather than fully realized characters. Jordan Chase, their leader, while interesting at first, is shallow, and the other members are disposable obstacles for Dexter and Lumen. Their story leans heavily on melodrama and shock value, framed like a subplot rather than a meaningful challenge. They don't test Dexter morally or emotionally and serve mainly as targets for vengeance, leaving their arc forgettable despite their brutality. The Best Antagonist number 5, Isaac Serko. Isaac Serko, a high-ranking member of the Russian Koshka Brotherhood, stands out as one of Dexter's most compelling foes. Unlike many villains, his motivations are personal. He seeks revenge for the murder of his lover, Victor, adding emotional depth and humanity to his character. His approach to conflict is marked by calculated intelligence. He doesn't rely on brute force alone. Instead, he employs strategy and manipulation to achieve his goals. For instance, when faced with a threat of hitmen, Isaac orchestrates situations to turn the tables, demonstrating his ability to control and outmaneuver his adversaries, while also operating within a moral framework that, while criminal, is governed by a code of honor and respect. His actions, though violent, are often guided by a sense of justice and loyalty, distinguishing him from more erratic or senseless killers. This moral complexity challenges Dexter's own sense of right and wrong, making Isaac a formidable and thought-provoking adversary. The worst antagonist number 5, Maria LaGuerta. Maria LaGuerta is often considered one of the most poorly written characters in Dexter. Initially depicted as a competent and ambitious police officer, her character devolves into a manipulative and vindictive antagonist without clear motivation or depth. Her obsession with Dexter, despite numerous red flags, undermines her credibility as a law enforcement professional. Instead of developing a nuanced understanding of his behavior, she fixates on him, leading to a series of contrived confrontations. This obsession culminates in her illogical pursuit of Dexter, even when the evidence against him is circumstantial at best. Her actions often seem driven by personal vendettas rather than professional integrity. Her manipulation of colleagues and disregard for ethical boundaries portray her as a character more interested in power plays than in justice. This lack of moral compass makes her a less compelling antagonist, so to speak, and causes this lack of depth to detract from the series' exploration of complex characters. The best antagonist number 6, Kurt Caldwell, outwardly is the charming and respected mayor of Iron Lake, a man trusted and admired by the community. Beneath the surface, however, he is a calculating serial killer who kidnaps and murders young women, creating a chilling contrast between his public persona and hidden depravity. What makes Kurt particularly memorable is his cunning and control. He carefully manipulates those around him, including attempting to influence Harrison by exploiting his darker tendencies. This adds a deeply personal and psychological dimension to his threat, forcing Dexter to confront not only the killer, but the potential legacy of his own darkness in his son. Kurt's interactions with Dexter escalate the tension throughout the season, culminating in a gripping confrontation between the two. His combination of deceptive charm, intelligence, and moral corruption makes him formidable, unlike his son. The worst antagonist number 6, Matt Caldwell. Matt Caldwell, the reckless and entitled son of Kurt Caldwell in Dexter New Blood, is one of the weakest antagonists in the series. His main crime, a boating accident that killed multiple people, is careless rather than calculated, and his one-dimensional personality lacks depth or complexity. Matt's role as a villain is further weakened by his behavior after his actions are confronted. Unlike other villains who fight or manipulate Dexter, Matt begs for his life, showing fear and weakness instead of cunning or threat, while simultaneously making pitiful excuses. This diminishes any tension his character could have provided. He exists mainly to push Dexter toward darker actions. As a result, Matt is a forgettable and unimpactful antagonist, memorable only as Kurt Caldwell's reckless son rather than a compelling foe. The best antagonist number 7, Leon Prater. Leon Prater, a billionaire venture capitalist, obsessively collects trophies from serial killers and hosts gatherings for them, creating a macabre network of like-minded criminals. Prater's complexity deepens when he discovers Dexter's identity as the Bay Harbor Butcher. Rather than exposing him, he tries to manipulate Dexter, offering information on other killers in exchange for killing Batista, showing just how unhinged he started to become, and even holding Harrison as a hostage when he tries to save Dexter. Ultimately, Dexter and Harrison confront and stop Prater, but his blend of intellect, manipulation, and disturbing obsession makes him one of the best written and most memorable villains in the Dexter universe. The worst antagonist number 7, Ronald Schmidt, also known as Red, is one of the weakest villains in the series. He targets rideshare drivers to avenge his father's suicide, decapitating them and collecting their licenses as trophies. While his crimes are gruesome, his motivations lack the psychological complexity that makes other Dexter villains compelling. Schmidt's interactions with Dexter are limited and fail to challenge him. Unlike more memorable foes, he does not test Dexter's code, manipulate him, or force him to confront his own darkness. As a result, Schmidt's pretty forgettable. He's mainly there to help Dexter sneak into Prater's secret club, not really be a proper antagonist. The best antagonist number 8, Angel Batista. Angel Batista is a complex and compelling character in the Dexter series. Initially introduced as a dedicated detective in Miami Metro homicide, Batista's character evolves significantly over the course of the show. His deep loyalty to Dexter Morgan, who he considers a close friend, blinds him to Dexter's darker side. This blind trust is ultimately a cause of his downfall. In Resurrection, Batista becomes one of the primary antagonists. After having itching suspicions about Dexter's true identity as the Bay Harbor Butcher, he comes out of retirement and embarks on a relentless pursuit to expose him, even resorting to questionable methods that strain his credibility and relationships. His obsessive quest for justice culminates in his tragic death at the hands of Leon Prater, highlighting the destructive nature of his vendetta. Batista's journey from a loyal friend to a vengeful adversary underscores the complexities of his character, making him a standout figure. His transformation challenges the audience's perception of loyalty and justice. The worst antagonist number 8, the Gemini Killers. The Gemini Killer twins are one of the most anticlimactic antagonists in the Dexter universe. Hyped as a notorious serial killer duo who murdered in pairs, their portrayal falls flat. They're all bark and no bite. They've got a creepy name, but they're just kinda there. Twice, even, and still nothing. Their scenes don't really do anything for the story. Gemini was supposed to be a big deal, but they ended up being a total letdown. They're both quickly killed and meet a swift and unremarkable end. Despite being hyped up as being number 1 on the FBI watch list for years and never even coming close to being caught, this anticlimactic resolution highlights the weak execution of their storyline, making them one of the least memorable villains in the series. Well, that's gonna do it for our deep dive into Dexter's best and worst antagonists. From ones who reflect Dexter's own struggles and force him into impossible choices, to those who lack depth and resonance. Which villain shocked you the most? And who do you think deserved more screen time? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell and shit. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay sharp. We'll see you in the next one.